Hi, this is Jeff Spencer, Math 120 instructor for the Community College Denver, and this is our video lecture over section 3.6, which goes over the negation of conditional statements and De Morgan's laws, which are just certain statement equivalencies. So we're just going to go, basically this section is just going to say that certain things are equivalent. We're going to give the negation of a conditional statement and look at equivalencies of De Morgan's, of various statements using De Morgan's law. So remember, the conditional statement is if P then Q, so the arrow really means then. So if P then Q, which really means if you have P then you have Q. The negation of that statement is P and not Q. So this is if you have P then you have Q, then this is P and not having Q. So that's the negation of it. This can be expressed as the negation of a conditional is equivalent to P and not Q. So we're going to practice various statements giving the equivalent statement, or sorry, the giving the negation of various conditionals. So you'll be working on that. So this is an important one to have in your notes. Okay, so let's look at an example here. So it says, if too much homework is given, a class should not be taken. So we like to write these statements in symbolic form so we can work through the symbolic nature of this. So this would be, if too much homework is given, a class should not, or they wrote the second statement as a class should be taken. So this symbolically would be P, if P, then not Q, because it says a class should be not taken. Okay, so if P, then not Q. This is just the original conditional statement, and now we're going to negate it. Okay, so remember from our previous thing, the negation of this is basically you just write the original P, you write the and then the not of the antecedent, or sorry, of the consequent, So this is what we're going to do. They're going to show it this way. The negation of if P then Q is P and not Q. And the negation of a negation is just the original statement. So this simplifies to P and Q. So translating into English, too much homework is given and the class should be taken is the negation of if too much homework is given, a class should not be taken. So remember, this is the negation of if too much homework is given, then a class should not be taken. So the negation is too much homework is given and the class should be taken. All right, so just to review, we've looked at a conditional statement. We've talked about its contrapositive, which is if we reverse the antecedent and the consequent and negate them, that's equivalent. Those statements are always equivalent. Now remember, we have the converse, which is just flipping the antecedent and the consequent. That's not equivalent to the original statement, the original conditional, as well as the inverse, which just negates both of them. So remember that contrapositive is equivalent, converse and inverse are not equivalent to the original conditional, and now the negation of P, if P then Q, is P and not Q. Important slide to know all those things. Then we have De Morgan's laws. So De Morgan's laws are just the negations of and conditionals and disjunction, or not conditionals, excuse me, conjunctions and disjunctions and or statements. So we also just have simple rules for those. The nice thing is it basically follows the same rule. When you negate a conjunction in an and, the and flips to an or and you negate both of the statements. It's just this. It's basically the same thing when you negate a disjunction. You just flip the disjunction to a conjunction, so flip the or to an and still negate both of the statements. So this is just an explanation of what I said before. It's just a long-winded way of explaining what you're doing. So these slides are basically the same. And let's look at an example. So it says, write the negation for each of the following statements. So it says, all students do laundry on weekends and I do not. Okay. So all students do laundry on weekends and I do not. This is a conjunction, an and statement. So if we're going to negate it, we basically turn it into an or statement and we negate both of the simple statements. So the negation of all students do laundry is some students do not do laundry. Remember, this is all students do laundry. That's something that we went over, a quantified term in 3.1. So all students do laundry on weekends. To negate that, some students do not do laundry on weekends. We change the and to an or. and I do not, and or I do. So some students do not do laundry on weekends, or I do would be the negation of this statement. Another example is some professors are entertaining lectures or on board. Okay, so this is a disjunction in or statement. So we're going to change it to an and then just negate both statements. So the negation of some is none. So some college professors are entertaining lectures. So the negation of that is no college professors are entertaining lectures. And I'm not bored, which is the negation of I'm bored. Okay, so this is what you're going to be doing in your homework. You're going to be negating conjunctions and disjunctions, and then working with the negation of a conditional statement like we did in this example. So good luck. We'll see you next time.